There are many factors that affect climate change. The biggest one is the increase that has occurred in carbon dioxide emissions since the Industrial Revolution. Nevertheless, 25% of the observed global warming has been caused due to soot contamination. Even though controlling carbon dioxide and soot emissions are both important, the reduction of soot is a short-term solution while the reduction of CO2 emissions is a long-term solution. In this investigation, we will explain the effects of CO2 and soot emissions and whether it will be a better policy to reduce the amount of soot or CO2 emissions. Soot includes tiny black particles mainly composed of carbon produced by the incomplete combustion of wood, coal, oil, and other fuels. A very important trait of soot particles is that they are very small. They are 2.5 micrometers or smaller in diameter, which is smaller than dust and mold. Therefore, the fact that soot particles are extremely small in size and have a toxic composition are what makes it dangerous. It can travel a large distance and end up far away from their site of origin. On the other hand, black carbon particles are the ones that absorb sunlight and give soot its black color.
Recent research has shown that soot can reach 2 kilometers above the sea level. These are levels at which particles do not only absorb sunlight coming directly to the Earth, but it also means that solar energy is being reflected by clouds. The main issue begins when these particles reach any of the poles or glaciers around the world. Snow and ice, due to their white background and composition, reflect sunlight back into the atmosphere. This is called the albedo effect. However, if soot reaches glaciers, it will turn them darker. Therefore, due to the fact that darker colors absorb sunlight instead of reflect it, the snow ice will absorb sunlight, causing the glaciers to melt. Moreover, when soot releases into the ocean, fish and other species can consume the soot, which can end up in human body, causing many diseases such as cancer. This is also called biomagnification. Unfortunately, that is not the only environmental issue. When soot found above a forest, it absorbs sunlight and does not let sunlight touch the ground. As a result, forest loses energy and the ground temperature decreases, affecting the leaves of the flora and fauna in the biome.
Moreover, soot compounds, which include nitrogen oxides and sulfur dioxides, combine with moisture and form acid rain, which changes the nutrient balance in ecosystems, affects water quality, and damages crops and soils. Additionally, breathing the particles can cause diseases such as asthma, coronary heart disease, and bronchitis, among other respiratory illnesses. Research has also shown that particle exposure leads to around 20,000 premature deaths in America each year, and many of these deaths were caused by diseases related to soot.
Carbon dioxide is an important component of the atmosphere, which is released through the process of respiration, volcanic eruptions, and human activities such as the burning of fossil fuels. As you can see in the image displayed, carbon dioxide consists of 82% of the amount of greenhouse gases. The increase of carbon dioxide has many effects on global warming. Carbon dioxide traps radiation at ground level, and this atmospheric layer prevents the Earth from cooling at night. This results in the warming of the ocean waters, and when water temperatures rise, it compromises the ocean's ability to absorb CO2. On the other hand, the Earth's surface temperature has risen over the last 100 years, according to studies done by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. What is more important, reducing black carbon emissions or carbon dioxide emissions? The reduction of CO2 emissions is essential regarding the mitigation of the worst impacts of climate change that can occur in the future. Between 65% and 80% of the CO2 released into the air dissolves into the ocean. This can take from 22 to 100 years. The remaining CO2 goes through a slower process in order to be removed that can take hundreds of thousands of years. This means that carbon dioxide can continue to affect climate for thousands of years once it is in the atmosphere. On the other hand, black carbon remains in the atmosphere for days or weeks before it returns to Earth with rain or snow.
The difference between solutions for carbon dioxide and soot are that we can turn carbon dioxide into oxygen by the process of photosynthesis, in which plants use the carbon dioxide and sunlight to get energy and releases oxygen. To accomplish this, we would need to do reforestation in order to have more trees. However, no technologies that remove soot on the environment exist because the particles of carbon are transported around the globe. It is impossible to remove particles of soot once they are already in the atmosphere. Therefore, the only solution available is to decrease its emissions, and this can be achieved by stopping the burning of fossil fuels and using renewable sources of energy such as hydroelectric, solar, or wind power.
Moreover, in order to reduce the amount of CO2 emissions, deforestation and illegal mining should be reduced, and people can make small changes such as using more public transport and recycling plastic waste.
In conclusion, CO2 emissions should continue to be reduced. Nevertheless, more effort should be placed on soot emissions right now because these remain in the atmosphere for a smaller amount of time, days or weeks, before it returns to Earth, unlike coal, which takes decades or hundreds of years. Therefore, by reducing soot emissions, there will be more immediate results on the reduction of global warming. Moreover, soot is harder to remove from the atmosphere, while CO2 is easier to remove because it can be done by planting more forests. This is why there should be more efforts placed in the reduction of soot emissions.